Welcome to this Tyfu Cymru webinar, which forms part of the Horticulture Professional Development Programme. This webinar is entitled Managing Your Cashflow and is an introduction to the Business Development and Funding Masterclass. My name is Evan Williams and I have had a long career in banking, latterly as an Associate Credit Director for Barclays Bank, before setting up my own learning and development company, alongside working as a business consultant to help start-up businesses and those more established businesses looking to increase sales. The Business Development and Funding Masterclass forms a part of a much wider program, which I will touch upon at the end of the webinar, where we will look at a variety of topics including helping you explore new opportunities in your market, looking at what you do well and building upon that success, business planning, and understanding how working capital works within your business. Today, though, we are concentrating upon cash flow and managing cash within your business. We will look at a variety of topics including knowing who you are dealing with, putting in place terms of trade, invoicing, getting paid, and what to do when the cash runs out. So the first topic is entitled Know Your Customer. Unless you know who you are trading with, you will not be able to check if they are good for payments or potential credit. So check out the exact name and legal status of your customer. Ask questions and see evidence. Get references from people you trust. And set your own rules and do not deviate from them. These help to protect you, your business, and by extension, your family. Stick by your rules. Next, treating your stakeholders fairly. If you do not pay your suppliers on time, you risk damaging your business. So, diarise for payments due in and out and ensure that they are in your cash flow forecast. Try not to get distracted by the day-to-day minutiae when running a business. How do you know that you can pay your salaries or pay for that stock when due unless you keep an eye on your cash? Talk to suppliers if you think that you might have a problem paying them on time. If you have a good relationship with your supplier, they are more willing to offer you time to pay. Treat your suppliers and customers as you want to be treated yourself. Would you want to be shouted at, ignored, treated inflexibly, or threatened? And make sure your invoices are comprehensive and agree payment term with your suppliers or customers before you or they place an order. Our third topic is terms of trade. Cash flow keeps your business in business. Making assumptions is dangerous and formally agreeing payment terms in advance is essential. Terms of trade, also known as payment terms, are what you and your customer or supplier have agreed on. So the most important thing to do is set out payment terms in advance and in writing. Make sure you get confirmation from your customer that they agree with the terms as set out. It's always better to know what to expect rather than hope and then wonder why the money has not arrived. If a payment is late, raise a further invoice for interest and late payment charges. It's a great way to get your customer's attention. It is your decision to offer terms, but decide how important future orders are and the impact upon your own cash flow. If a customer is asking for extended terms, you do not have to agree, if by doing so you will run out of cash, leaving you unable to pay your own customers. Next, invoicing. If you do not raise an invoice, you will not get paid. It is a vital first step in achieving healthy cash flow. So the sooner you ask, the sooner you get paid. I know it sounds obvious, but do raise an invoice immediately after you've supplied your goods or services. You might want to consider investing in some form of accountancy software that assists you raise an e-invoice that you can email straight away. Get invoices right. Raising credit notes or reissuing invoices takes up time and resources. And in terms of your invoice, make sure it is addressed correctly. Clearly shows your name and VAT number, shows the correct dates of dispatch and purchase orders numbers, a clear description of how the goods are packaged to include quantities and unit price, how payments should be made and when. All of these are important. Now, chasing for payment. It is your cash at the end of the day. You should have a routine system for following up non-payment that includes letter, email, and telephone. Call your customer before payment is due to ensure that they have your invoice and there are no queries. At the end of the day, this is good customer service and may even lead to future sales. Make immediate contact if a payment has not been received when due, and be assertive, not aggressive. Be clear when you expect to get paid and explain the consequences in the event of a non-payment. If a customer is persistently late paying, consider whether you still want to offer credit terms or offer your products to them. What would be the impact on your business if that payment due became a bad debt? If, for example, your net profit percentage is 10% and a customer defaults on a £5,000 invoice, you will need to generate additional sales of £50,000 to cover that loss. So now what happens when your cash runs short? So you've got a full order book and a good profit margin, but if your business runs out of cash, it will fail. So prepare one or update your cash flow forecast. They are easy to put together despite what your accountant says, and there are numerous online resources to help you. Monitor carefully against your forecasts for variances. The worst way to find out you are off track is because there's no money in your account to pay wages or your supplier, or your bank tells you there isn't any money left in your account. If you can't pay an obligation when due, talk and see if the beneficiary can accommodate a later payment. They may rather take 50% of the invoice value now and the rest at an agreed later date than 100% of nothing. Statistics from the Chartered Institute of Credit Management suggest that there are over 55 business failures every working day. Do not be one of these for cash flow management. Managing cash in a crisis. All the basic principles of cash flow and credit management are even more important in times of uncertainty. Whilst many businesses are struggling with several aspects during the COVID-19 pandemic, keeping control of your cash resources is more important than ever. So, in summary, stay close to your customers and suppliers. If your customers are struggling, this will likely impact upon you in the form of unpaid invoices. Clearly document payment terms. Everybody needs to know what is agreed and when payment is due. Only agree to changes if you are not disadvantaged. Just because a key customer wants to extend the payment term by 60 days doesn't mean that you have to agree to it, especially if this will significantly disadvantage your business. Review your cash flow constantly. Consider investing in a credit management system to help you monitor and chase invoices. And look for guidance where possible. The Chartered Institute of Credit Management has some excellent resources on this matter. What's available at the moment? So the UK and Welsh governments have provided numerous financial support processes at this time, from grants, government guaranteed loans, VAT and tax deferment, and the covering of wages. So it's well worth reviewing the UK and Welsh government websites. If you are experiencing problems with your cash flow, talk to your bank immediately. Do not wait for them to contact you. If you do, you've lost the initiative and the control is with them. Banks do not return items lightly, and the process behind it is lengthy. So they will rather help you, but get in there first and ask for support before it's too late. I mentioned at the start of this webinar that this is one of a series of webinars we are running to provide a taster for the Tyfu Cymru's new training program for horticultural businesses. It's called the Horticulture Professional Development Program, and it's exclusively for Welsh horticultural business. Its aim is to equip you with a range of commercial skills through a tailored program of masterclasses and leadership coaching delivered by Tyfu Cymru and a network of specialists, mentors and business leaders. The program offers flexibility to fit around the busy schedule of owners, senior managers and aspiring managers from ambitious horticultural businesses. It can be completed in 1 year, and all participating businesses must attend a minimum of 5 full-day masterclasses. The masterclasses in the series are listed on the screen, and to check your eligibility, you are invited to complete a simple 2-minute online application that can be found on the Tyfu Cymru website by clicking on Masterclasses under the What's on Offer heading. Thanks very much for listening.
Thank you, Evan. That was very informative. So if I kick us off with the first question that's come in, as the UK government and Bank of England has just announced that the UK economy is now in recession, how can I recession-proof my business? Thank you for the question.
Great question. So there's probably 5 things I would look to do at this stage if I was running my business. The first one, as I think I mentioned in that webinar, is put together a cash flow. It is genuinely not as difficult as your accountant makes out to do, and it doesn't have to be 12 months. It can be 2-3 months in advance now, but it will really help your business if you can plan your cash flow. So look at what's coming in, what you need to pay, try and match big payments to when income is coming in. It will definitely help if you can start the process now of planning your cash flow. Another thing I think I would look at is certainly focus on what you do best, you take priority, but look to diversify where you can. A lot of businesses in the last few months have been really successful where they have diversified. So clothing manufacturers have started to produce masks. Distilleries and the likes have started to produce hand sanitizers, and that's enabled them to carry on trading, generate some income over this time when their core business couldn't trade for whatever reason. So it's not always easy, but have a look what's in the market, what your competitors are doing. Maybe you've always thought, why does nobody offer this in our market? And maybe now is the time to look whether you can do that. So try to look for an element of diversity if you can. I would definitely not put the brakes on marketing at this point. That might seem counterintuitive because marketing may come at a cost, but there are lots of businesses that for whatever reason will not return to work at this moment in time. So your voice will be a little bit louder in a less crowded workspace. So still concentrate on marketing and look to market maybe a little bit more effectively. If you know what social media platforms your customers use, then look to enhance your profile on those platforms rather than just a sporadic marketing campaign. Fourthly, then I think don't forget about your workforce and your employees. Now might be a really great time to upskill them. They might be coming to you saying it'd be really great if we knew this or we could help with that. There's lots of resources out there, lots of free resources on the Welsh Government and UK websites. LinkedIn itself runs lots of really great free resources. Google Analytics does a lot of things if you want to look at digital marketing and how many people visit your website. There's lots of really free stuff out there. So maybe in those quieter moments, now is a good time to look at putting in place some training plans for your employees. And I think my final point would be just take advantage of this situation. Yes, we are in the middle of a pandemic at this moment in time, but fingers crossed, it's not going to last forever. And the more prepared you can be now, the better. So it is doing all those things as prepare now for what's going to happen in the future. Should see you in good stead then when we do come out the other side of this.
Thank you. And yes, just on that last point, you talked about the importance of managing cash in a crisis. Do you have
Sure.
any specific advice or guidance that should be considered on that?
Yes. So again, I'm going to keep hammering it, is put together a cash flow. There were lots of free can't get my words out. A lot of free resources out there. I mean, your accountant might be able to help you with that, but they might charge you a fee. But just go onto any search engine, type in free cash flow template. I'm sure something will pop up. And you know your business, you know what money comes in when, you know when you need to pay for things. There are lots of fixed costs in your business. So rent, you always pay at a specific time. Utilities, you always pay at a specific time. So it's relatively easy to put together even a simplified cash flow. So that would be my first step. If you know some of your customers are struggling, just talk to them. I mentioned in that webinar, you might be able to either encourage them to pay a little bit earlier by offering them a discount if they do pay early. So that will help your cash flow. If they're struggling, then yes, maybe take 50% of what they owe you now and arrange for the 50% at a later date, rather than they struggle, they fail, and you get 100% of nothing. So I would certainly talk to customers. Same with suppliers as well. If you are struggling to make a payment for supplies that you've had, just talk to your supplier. I'm sure they'll be quite accommodating. Overheads I mentioned, so fixed costs. So I would certainly review what payments are going out through your bank account. So maybe just sit down with last month's statement and look at all of those standing orders and direct debits. Because, I mean, a lot of people, as an example, this is more of a personal example, but a lot of people signed up for a gym 5 years ago, don't go, yet the direct debit still goes out of their account. So look at those things that you've signed up for that now you don't need to pay for anymore. Or so cancel them, or can you defer them? With overheads as well, one of the things that has worked for a lot of my clients is they've prioritized payments. So they have 3 categories. So absolutely must pay no matter what. And you can decide what that is. Then there's the next group maybe of suppliers that you would really like to pay when the funds are there. And then everybody else falls into the category that may have to get paid when you've got funds. So that's another thing to do. And I think the only other thing then, well, is just look at what support is out there. There's lots of government support, Welsh government and UK government support. There's grants, there's VAT tax deferments. The business interruption loan comes with a guarantee from the government, so banks are very keen to lend via that route. So there is a lot of help and support out there. You just need to look for it.
And actually, perhaps that's a good point to mention. The project can support that one-to-one help. So if people want to, after this, have a conversation with yourself, then that is an offer there, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. And we have found through the COVID crisis that we can make good use of that, because we can do that via telephone or Zoom or email advice.
Absolutely. And all those conversations are, of course, completely confidential. You know, nothing gets shared with anybody else. So, and, you know, I've been in banking and finance for 30 years. So these things come natural to me. I'm quite happy with the terminology. I accept that is not always the case in a lot of scenarios, and people are uncomfortable about talking about money or finance, or feel that they just can't articulate themselves well. I hope that through my career in banking and latterly as learning and development company, that I am quite happy to take as much time and talk to you in a language that you will understand, that I will ultimately be able to help. So yes, so that offer is always there.
Great. Thank you, Evan. Another question that's come in. Should we ideally put aside time every week or month to do our finances? And you've touched on it, but what should we prioritize?
Okay, so the answer to the first question is absolutely yes. You know, when I set up my learning and development company, I didn't do it to complete a quarterly VAT or talk in my accountant about tax 12 months later. I did it because I wanted to provide learning and development. So I know finances aren't the reason that you set up a business, but yeah, just having that 5, 10, 15-minute time every week just to have a look at the bank account, see if you're on track, look at what you need to pay for next week. Have I got the funds? If I haven't, what am I going to need to do? Have a look at the bank account. Actually, that customer hasn't paid me. Maybe I just need to get on the phone just to make sure everything's okay. You know, is there anything you can do? So that discipline is absolutely critical. Yes, so I would certainly recommend that process probably needs to happen in your business now if it isn't already happening.
Thank you. One more. I'm aware of a system by which you can use your unpaid invoices to help you access cash in advance of payment.
Oh, yes.
But I don't really understand it. Can you explain it?
Oh, okay.
Good question. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So yes, it's called invoice discounting. Operates in two ways. So there's something called a single invoice discounting. So if I sell my product to a customer and I send them an invoice, that means I'm not going to get paid for maybe 30 days, 60 days in advance, but I might need the cash now. So an invoice discounter will give me a percentage of that invoice up front, typically up to 80%. So let's say I've sent an invoice out for £10,000. I've got to wait 2 months for that customer to pay, but an invoice discounter will give me 80%, so £8,000 now. When then I do get paid by the customer in 2 months' time, I have to give back the invoice discounting company that £8,000 plus an amount on top of that as their fee. So I lose a little bit. I don't get all of the £10,000 because I've paid a fee, but the advantage to me is I've had £8,000 2 months earlier than I would have. So in terms of cash flow, it's a fantastic facility. It's not always cheap, but it is a really good facility. So that's single invoice discounting. You can just do invoice discounting, which is all of your invoices are financed in a very similar way, percentage up to 50, ranging anywhere from 50 to 70%. But the process is the same. The invoice discounting company gives you the money up front, and then when you get the money from your customer on the due date, you pay them back that money with a little bit on top. So, but it is, yes, it's a really great facility. If your client who's asked you that question is interested, I think talk to their bank would be the first port of call. If for whatever reason that doesn't happen, then again, I'm happy to pick that up offline. There are lots of invoice discounting companies out there that would provide that facility. Yeah, it's a good facility.
Good. Thank you. Thank you for asking that one. Any other questions? Just give you a couple of minutes if there's anything else. Oh yes, good point. Do I contact Tyfu Cymru directly? Yes. If you're already familiar with any of the team, then contact the team or use the Tyfu Cymru at lantra.co.uk email address, which can be found on our website. And I'll put, if somebody could put that in the chat box, that would be great. So I
was just going to say, maybe if we're waiting, then the other thing I'd just like to stress is early dialogue with your bank is absolutely critical. Banks absolutely love those customers that come to them and say, I might need a new overdraft facility or an increase in my overdraft facility in 2 weeks' time. That's great, because that gives them the time to review the facility. Will they provide it? Will they not provide it? If they will provide it, on what terms? That's fabulous. The worst case scenario is you've written out a check for a new tractor, like a lot of my farming customers used to do, for £20,000, and then they ring me up and say, can I have an increase on my overdraft because I've just written out a check for £20,000? That's much harder. If they come and see me 2 weeks ago, we could have had a dialogue. I probably would have put it in place, no problem at all. So the earlier you can recognize a need to borrow, and that's going back to putting together a cash flow, the earlier you can have a conversation with the bank, much better, the better position you will be in for them to agree that facility. So don't wait, effectively.
apologies.
To do.
And we have put the information now in the chat box if anybody is looking for the link. So thank you all for attending. Some really good questions have come through. If you want any more information on the support that's available through Tyfu Cymru, contact us. Or if you want to access the one-to-one support with Evan, this session has been recorded and it will be posted on our Tyfu Cymru Knowledge Hub within the next few days. When you leave the webinar, there'll be a short evaluation form to complete. We'd really appreciate if you could spend a couple of minutes doing that. But thank you very much, Evan, and thank you all for attending.
Thank you.
Goodbye.